Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be on the new Colourpop Wild Nothing palette. I also have their new blush and lip oil to share as well. Those are the products I wanted most from the collection. I know they came out with some cream eyeshadows and stuff, but those are the ones that stood out to me the most. So I want to get right into the Wild Nothing palette. Basically, the whole theme of this palette is very like pastel, very soft. I actually had to turn down my ring light quite a bit, and I have to hold this in a certain way so you guys can actually see the colors because they are very, very soft shades. I was really drawn to this palette because it has a lot of like champagne and peachy tones. It just has a lot of shimmer shades that I tend to reach for. So in here we have 7 matte shades, these 2 light tones up here and kind of like an eggshell color and a peachy tone. This like medium peach shade, and then these 4 bottom shades. The second one, Hot Springs, is a matte with some glitter in it, but it just blends out to matte. And then we have this cool tone, dark shade. The rest of these are basically kind of all in the same color scheme, more of like medium transition shades, and then you have like your very light shades. So you'll notice everything's kind of around like the same muted, same intensity of color. And then in here we also have 3 metallic shades. I'll go ahead and swatch those separately. We have a peach, a green, and like a champagne shade that is on my lid. So if you see those close together, that's the first time I'm swatching them right next to each other. They are like pretty similar depending on the lighting, a champagne, green, and peach tone. And then the last 2 shades are Super Shock Shadows. These 2 kind of champagne tones. I'll go back and swatch the matte separately too. But these 2 champagne tones are actually very similar as well. We just have one that's a little peachier and then one that's a bit more champagne that kind of blends into my hand, but it's more of like a true champagne shade. Finish out those matte swatches. So these are the 2 lighter matte shades from the first row here. And over here we have our peachy matte shade. And then the last row is where you have more of your medium and deeper tone shades. So that is all of the shades in the palette. You can see how similar so many of the shades are to each other. So you guys will note that in the tutorial too, that I do use quite a bit of the different shades, but it doesn't look like it because they all kind of blend together a bit. 2 palettes that I have in my everyday makeup drawer are also like neutral Colourpop palettes. I'll show you guys what they look like for comparison. Like this one's way different. The California Love palette, this is more bronzy, bold, and gold. You can definitely get more dramatic looks with this palette, obviously, compared to this palette. And then one that's a little bit more similar, and probably one of my favorite palettes, like top 5 most used palettes in my collection, Going Coconuts from Colourpop. I find that these are quite similar, but you do get some more variety with mattes in here, even though you have 3 less shades. I kind of think you have to do that when you have less shades to get just more variety and not like repeat shades. Like this whole bottom row, well, basically like these 4 could have been switched up a bit to give us a little bit more variety, but we'll get to that a bit more in the tutorial. But those are all the shades in the palette. That retails for 18 bucks. And then the blush I have here is in the shade Crossroads, and this retails for $10. It's a very powdery blush. It's what I'm wearing today. It's a very soft formula too. It's super, super pretty. I'll just swatch this down here. And then I got the lip oil in the shade Playa Vista. It's what I'm wearing on my lips over a lip liner. Right now, I will swatch this maybe down here. It's like a peach shade. But let's go ahead into the tutorial so you guys can see how I did my makeup today using the Wild Nothing collection. So I'm gonna start off with this shade, Morningside, this like matte peachy shade. And I am gonna use the green shade for my lid, but I do wanna do like a warmer crease. And most of these matte shades in here are a bit lighter. There's a few deeper ones for like an outer corner. But you get mostly like medium browns and light cream and peachy shades for the matte. Next, I'm gonna go in with the shade Hot Springs. This is kind of like a mauve-y tone, and it has a little bit of a glitter fleck to it, but it's mostly a matte. It is a matte shade, it just has like those little glitter pieces in it. Then I'm gonna go in a little bit with the shade Come Together and just a tiny bit of No Bound, just to deepen up the outer edge just a little bit. And these two are the cool tone mattes in the palette. The other mattes are definitely warm tones. So I'm taking a Morphe M124 and then I'm just gonna wet it using the Milani setting spray. And then I'm gonna go in with the shade Seashells, this green, which is gorgeous because it's like a yellow green. This is probably my favorite shade in the palette. I know there's a lot of palette that have like one standout green or blue, but this one's actually like a pretty muted green. So I'm gonna take the shades Hot Spring and Come Together and add those back to my outer corner. And then I'm just gonna use my finger to go over the outer edge and fade out that shimmer shadow. All right, so I just threw on some lashes and then I'm gonna finish off the lower lash line with the shade Hot Springs and then go in with some other things in the collection for the rest of my face. And then I'm gonna go in with the new blush from the collection. There's a few different blushes. I have the shade Crossroads. This is such a good blush. This is peachy nude, very powdery as well. It has a mirror too. It also has a little bit of shimmer to it. It's a super pigmented blush too, so I don't want to go in with too heavy of a hand because it's really pigmented, really blendable. And then I'm gonna go back in the palette for highlight. I think I'm gonna go with the shade Spirited. In here, this is one of the Super Shock shadows. And I'm just using my little Morphe highlight brush to pick up the product, just to kind of add a little bit more. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. All right, for lips, I'm using Cheese Humble from Patrick Ta as a lip liner. And then I'm gonna go in with the new lip oil. So I just fully filled in my lips with the Patrick Ta lip liner, and then I'm using the new Luxe Lip Oil. This is such an interesting product. I don't think I've tried too many lip oils, or if I have, they're like a little too oily and not, just like too slippery on your lips. Like there's no grip to them. So I have this shade Playa Vista. It's this like nude color, like a peachy nude. And I like it because it is actually like fairly pigmented. Because when I think lip oil, I think like almost like a clear gloss with just like a tint to it. But this actually has a bit of pigmentation. It looks really nice on its own, but I wanted something a little bit more for like a full makeup look. But this is also a good like throw in your purse, everyday easy product. All right, so this is the completed look. Definitely super easy, very neutral. I did want this look to pop a bit more. I fully intended to have a little bit more color going on. Like the green kind of, this is the first time I'm wearing the green, and it actually, even with the peachy shades, looks a bit more like a little bit of a green champagne tone. I mean, that's kind of necessarily what it is if you just see the shade swatched on its own. Like in certain lights, it's just gonna look champagne. So if you really want more like champagne shades, like true champagne shades, peachy lid colors, this is gonna be a palette that has that. The thing that I'm not in love with are the mattes. I feel like some of these are really similar right here. Like even these three are all kind of in that same color scheme and like medium tone. I could use a little bit more of a deeper shade other than just this cool tone brown shade. I need something in between there. I'm gonna end up using pretty much all the shades, but it's definitely not gonna be a palette that replaces some of my holy grails that I've had in my like everyday makeup drawer for months now. Like these are my two favorite palettes like in my collection at this point, especially the Going Coconuts palette. Like it's completely different. Like you get a lot more depth with this palette and so much more depth with this palette. And this is kind of like all more muted and everything like that. So keep that in mind if you guys are interested in this palette. It's not gonna be the most exciting palette in your collection, but it's gonna be a very practical palette to have because if you love neutrals, if you just want simple, warm tones and some mauve shades and champagne shades that are gorgeous, that is what this palette is for. And then the other products in the collection, I actually probably like the other products a little bit better than the palette. Like I do see myself using the blush and the lip oil a bit more on a day-to-day basis. I love blushes where it goes with everything. I could just wear the same blush every single day and it makes me so happy. And that's how I feel when I put on this blush because it has a little bit of a sheen to it. I definitely see myself hitting pan on that before the end of the year for sure. And the lip oil I bought just on a whim, just because I wanted to buy one more thing from this collection specifically for this video. I'm like, let me throw in a lip product when I was checking out. And I actually really love this. So I definitely see myself, you know what? It really reminds me of the original Fenty Gloss Bomb. It's like a very similar color and consistency and texture. You just get a little bit more pigmentation, which I really, really like. So I love that. Like I love these two products that I kind of just bought as like an add-on. I'm like, I'm doing a Colourpop order. Let me try out a couple more things. But yeah, overall, that is my thoughts on some of the products in the collection, especially the eyeshadow palette. Let me know if you guys ended up getting anything from this collection. Let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know your favorite Colourpop palette in the comments below. But that's going to be everything for today's video. If you guys liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.